Mos Eisley spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
What an iconic line from Star Wars A New Hope. It really sums up the danger and excitement that our heroes are going to be facing as they take their next step in their adventure. But what if it's BS? What if Mos Eisley's a really nice place full of really decent people who are getting along just fine until our heroes get there and start fights, cut off limbs and kill people? First thing to note is that this definition of Mos Eisley as Scumbag Central is a statement from someone who says stuff like this.
What I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
And this.
I don't seem to remember ever owning a droid.
And this.
And he was a good friend.
So forgive me if I don't take him at his word. If you look at it objectively, without Obi Wan's opinion ringing in your ears, Mos Eisley looks like a hive of fun and frivolity. Looks pretty progressive, in fact. Let's just take a quick look around. The cantina is a place full of everyday people who seem to be enjoying a drink and a chat. And it's diverse as shit. You have these guys, even a werewolf, and Satan? Everyone's cool with him being here. Kind of feels like this place is a strikingly tolerant and obviously openly welcoming place. Get a load of the ambience and that jaunty music. Now, maybe Max Rebo and the Modal Nodes have some legitimately heavy album tracks. Maybe this is just the song that they made their name with and now they have to play it at every gig. But it's kind of bouncy and fun. It doesn't exactly scream badass hangout for alien psychos, does it?
We don't serve their kind here.
What?
Yeah, there we go. The bartender is prejudiced against droids. Who the hell does he think he is, telling our robotic allies that they're not welcome? Villainy. But what if I told you this is perfectly reasonable and probably a standard expectation at most places like this? Fact is, droids don't eat or drink anything. They take up space and they are as clumsy as shit.
What?
R2-D2 is below most species' eye line, and in a place like this, he's just a rolling trip hazard. We already got one of those, but at least this one's buying stuff. Plus, no one enjoys talking to droids.
What?
At this point, Luke sees these things as appliances, and us fans love them, but in universe, C-3PO seems to just annoy everyone. Droids take up space, they don't buy anything, they're terrible company, and it's no less convenient for them to be outside than in. So why would a bar let them in? But that's not the end of it. There's something else to consider here. But first, let's step outside the bar, get some fresh desert air, and take a look around town to illustrate a point. The port of Mos Eisley seems to be pretty much a police state, and these soldiers of the Empire are kind of like the Gestapo. That's not an exaggeration to make a point. I mean, these guys are called stormtroopers for a reason. The Empire are ethnocentric. Everyone in the Empire that we see in A New Hope is human. Even beyond this film, we might see some nefarious non-humans, we might even see them work for the Empire, but it's almost exclusively humans running the show, baby. And it's a pretty humans are best club at that. But what about Admiral Thrawn? Okay, I don't doubt that he and some others are examples of non-humans who are a direct part of the Empire, but let's take Grand Admiral Thrawn as an example of how it happens. In the books in which he's introduced, a point is made of how much of an exception he is. A lot's made of the human-centric prejudices of the Empire, and frankly, that's on brand for who the Empire is modelled on. That's not to say that every human in this far, far away galaxy is part of the Empire, I'm sure they're not. Bartender is human. It's not too surprising that a member of the politically dominant race gets to run his own business. Maybe there's a Homo sapien or two who's a polite and peaceful customer. But I can't help but think that most races would be wary of us. These guys are just omnipresent, enforcing a quasi-police state, monitoring and hassling everyone as they go about their crappy Tatooine lives. So yeah, the aliens might well be a little bit on edge around humans. So maybe the bartender didn't want unknown humans around because he figured it might upset the rest of the clientele. So saying
We don't serve their kind here
might just be a safe way to try and discourage too many humans getting into the club. He couldn't directly say that humans who are maybe part of the police state aren't welcome, but he can say it about the droids in the hope that they'll find another bar.
I don't like you either.
Oh, but what about this moment? I mean, Luke's the victim here, right? Spider-Face picks a fight with Luke. His buddy starts hassling him too. They're bad news, right? Seem pretty aggressive. This guy is wanted on 12 worlds, so scummy villain right there. Right? Well, not necessarily a bad guy. The Empire wants him, and the Empire blows up planets to make a point. They're certainly not beyond just designating somebody as wanted, whether they're guilty of anything or not. But let's just suppose he is a criminal. He and his buddy live a life on the run, and then a member of the species that's persecuting them sits down next to him, all nonchalant. Regardless of what Johnny 12 Planets here's done, he could be acting like a loon because someone from the Stormtrooper race has just appeared right next to him. Everyone else in the cantina might actually be on the side of the wanted man who's preemptively challenging someone from the species that hassles, oppresses, and causes difficulties for everybody else. Anyway, we're back in the bar and oh my god, that escalated quickly. Self-defense, right? He had no choice, except he kind of did. Obi Wan Kenobi makes a pretty unconvincing attempt to talk down the aggressors, but he always could have pulled one of these out of the bag.
He can go about his business.
Way less conspicuous than using a weapon synonymous with the Jedi to inflict a dismemberment. So now our heroes do what they set out to do and actually manage to have a quiet chat for about 3 minutes without dismembering anyone. They charter a ship, but oh no, our new companion is waylaid by a dangerous looking bounty hunter who's relaying an entirely reasonable request. What this boils down to, predictably, is another human causing trouble, in this case outright murder, and not giving a crap about who has to sort out the mess afterwards. As far as anyone else is concerned, if you get a bunch of humans together, they swan around like they own the place, they cause trouble, people get killed, and everyone else has to pick up the pieces. Surely I'm being far too hard on the humans and far too lenient on the rest of the species. What about this kind of stuff? Yeah, bad non-humans doing bad stuff, right? Well, this whole thing happens because Han Solo still owes Jabba that money from A New Hope. He's not paid it back, even though he easily could have and promised that he would. This puts him and his associates in danger. All we're seeing here is Han reaping the results of his much extended and always ignored due date. Jabba the Hutt is a criminal, and a pretty sleazy one who doesn't play around. But Han is not some innocent bystander here. He kind of brought this down on him and his. Han's got all the money in the world now. He could have just paid this debt and had one less problem, but he didn't. I'm not going to really get into who's right and who's wrong. I'm just going to point out that there are some other perspectives to this. Declaring the people that you don't like, who may have legitimate reasons to dislike you too, as scum, well, might be worth bearing in mind that they might have some choice words for you too, pal. If you look at it from a certain point of view, it just kind of feels like the people of the cantinas are having a pretty good time and not really bothering anyone until there's a critical mass of humans, and then it's freaking carnage. Like, every time, every bar. Or maybe it's just Obi-Wan, you can't take him anywhere. Pretty easy to justify starting some shit if you've decided that everyone there is
Scum and Villainy.
Jedi business. Go back to your drinks.